This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring Corey Parker, the cornerbacks coach at Toledo. Coach Parker discusses his coaching start, the transition from high school to college coaching, and offers advice to young coaches. If you like this podcast, make sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch new episodes each week. Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Parker.
Coach Parker, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm great, man. Happy to be on and just, having a chance to talk a little bit of ball, but spend time with you in AFCA. Like I said, I cut my teeth into coaching, learning from guys, speaking at this particular clinic, so anything I can ever do for this clinic and just being a part of this deal is very special and near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, and you already know, man, I strongly appreciate you and everything that you've done. I think you spoke this year. I think you spoke in the past, and it's always been heavily involved, man. But let's go back in history, man. Let's take it way back. Now, we're not that old yet, but we're starting to get up there a little bit. You were a 3-year letter winner in DB at Eastern Michigan, as a player.
Yeah.
And since you graduated, you've been in the coaching profession. At what point did you know you wanted to be a ball coach? And, what experiences maybe at Eastern Michigan or in high school did you maybe have that realization and what coach might have inspired that?
Yeah, well, I think, my high school experience was something special. Obviously, had a lot of success as a high school student athlete, but I played at a championship caliber ball program at St. Martin de Forest High School. I think we're second in the state of Michigan in state championships. And Coach Greg Carter, Coach Ron Thompson, two great men, Hall of Famers in our state of Michigan, really just poured love into a lot of different young men and put us in a position to go and be successful, academically, socially, and obviously athletically, because a ton of us went along to play college football, and then some guys were able to play in the NFL, and then a ton of us now are in the coaching profession because of the experience we had with those men giving back and really just putting the best foot forward and showing, young men this is the way to do things, this is how to do things, and sometimes pushing against the grain a little bit when the young men don't necessarily want to do what you tell them to do. Those guys were able to do that in different ways way back in the 90s. So I learned, and I know it helped me being a kid from 6 Mile on the east side of Detroit. I needed somebody like that in my life that told me it ain't good enough just to tackle some dang on body. You're going to have to do well in this classroom if you want a shot to move out your parents' house at the age of 18 years old. And with that, I listened to them and I never moved back in with my parents from there. And being where I'm from, that's something special. That's a great opportunity. And to think how simple-minded that is. I was able to move out of my parents' house because I could tackle somebody. I was able to pay for $180,000 education because I could tackle somebody. I've never scored a touchdown a day of my life, but I could tackle somebody. That gave me an opportunity to change my life. Hence, now my son is able to see me as a professional. Hence, now he's going to want to create that level of generational success. Hey, you got to go to school and you may need to tackle somebody or check somebody to do so. So I thank those coaches all day, every day for that opportunity, because without them, I'm not where I'm at right now. Then once I got in college, I'll say Eastern Michigan was a great opportunity for me. Why? Because, I didn't have a winning experience. God blessed me with that in high school. So to have it twice again in college, that was going to be extraordinary. And it just didn't happen that way. But what was extraordinary for me was we had several different coaches come in and run several different types of schemes at Eastern Michigan. So as a player, as a safety, I was able to memorize several different types of playbooks, several different types of concepts. And now as a coach, I'm able to employ those particular rules and concepts when I got into high school versus other coaches. And I was a little bit more advanced than guys because I'd seen, under center 22 personnel offenses. I had seen and learned the spread offense when it first came out, when Coach Jeff Jennick and his crew came over to Eastern Michigan. I'd seen a West Coast offense from Jeff Woodruff and his staff. And so then defensively was able to learn from Bob Diaco and those guys when we were running just a 4-3 front. And then from there, we were able to learn from Coach Tim Rose, the 3-3-5 front. So I was blessed to learn from so many different coaches conceptually on how to do things. And most importantly, when you got a coach like Coach Tony Oaten as your defensive backs coach, who's going to pour love into you and coach will hold you at a high standard. It teaches you so much in such a little bit of time that you have no other choice but if you go into the coaching profession, but to deploy those attacks on opponents, but also know how to treat your players and make sure they are getting the most out of their particular experiences. So my time at Eastern Michigan was great. I never looked at it as anything bad because, once again, I got $180,000 education paid for because I was up there tackling folks. So those coaches that I named are guys that really left something inside of my heart. Like I said, Jeff Jennick, Tim Rose, Bob Diaco, all those guys that spent time, John Dignan, all of those guys that just spent so much time. Jim Bridge. I mean, I can go down the line, different coaches, Mike Elston, and all of these guys have, they're having a lot of different success in their own coaching professions. But when we were all there in Eastern Michigan with each other, Dave Lawson, Mike Joseph, these guys were strength coaches, but they made sure I knew how to run the 40-yard dash the appropriate way. I knew how to hang clean, bench, and squat and become stronger and faster. So when I become a high school coach, I'm able to now give some of that information to my players and teach them how to do things the right way instead of how I am assuming it should be done or on the internet and trying to learn how it's done, deploy it that way. Because I know that's what the coaching game has went to a little bit, what's going on the internet instead of what happened through personal experience. So I had personal experience, the internet, book knowledge and self-research, and I also have those connections, those relationships that I have with all those coaches, so I can call and update myself as football is updating itself. I don't have to, once again, assume or guess. I can always adjust with the game as the game is growing simply because I have those guys to call and internet research and books and things like that I can share and learn from different guys.
That's awesome, Coach. Well, you said something interesting there. You talked about your high school experience and really the success of that of where you played and how many guys went on to go play at the next level. I think anybody that plays collegiately, I know you have a handful of people that want to get that degree so they can go be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. But I would say a large amount of guys they can go play at that next level for an opportunity to go play at the highest level, to go make it to the NFL. And oftentimes it's a tough time in life. I remember my personal experience, that realization that wasn't going to happen. What's next? That transition phase, that transition period. And I also took that experience and I always poured into my players that they could lean on me whenever they were going through that experience. But obviously you get done and very, very quickly you're coaching high school football within the year. You're employed at Detroit Jesuit High School, University of Detroit Jesuit High School. What was that transition period like, going from student athlete to coach, not just professionally, but also hanging those cleats up, putting that helmet away, and then also realizing that you have to go and maybe some of the things you did in college, they couldn't fly anymore. You've been punctual. Some of those life lessons that you learned being a collegiate athlete.
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I experienced, like most of us experience, you run a 4.51 electric at pro timing day, and you bench press 225 16 times, and you really think, I got a shot at this, and you end up not getting that shot. Some of my teammates at Eastern Michigan did. I didn't get that shot. So what did I do? I went and started, working out for all these CFL teams, these CFL workouts. And Ottawa Renegades was one of the teams I worked out for, and it just turned out that I made the team. I was ready to go, and then all of a sudden, everybody that made the team, we all received an email saying that they were going to cease operations, and so that was heartbreaking. But it was a real life moment for me to say, okay, maybe this is a sign from the man upstairs telling me it's really time to hang these cleats up, Corey. And so I was looking for a job. I went job searching, and I was on my way inside of a restaurant called Lucky Strike in a Fountain Walk area in Novi, Michigan. And Coach John Dignan, the guy that recruited me to play at Eastern Michigan, and Scott Merchant, they were on their way, who's a Hall of Fame head coach in the state of Michigan. They're on their way to lunch. So I'm walking through the parking lot. Those guys are walking through the parking lot on their way to lunch too. Hey, CP, is that you? And I'm like, hey, what's up, coach? And he said, man, come have lunch with us. I'm like, man, I got a job interview over here. You're interviewing for a job over here? You're interviewing for a job with us. Come on over here and come have lunch with us. We'll talk to you about some ball. And just right there, just the impact that I had as a team captain at Eastern Michigan, and just trying to do things the right way, have ups and downs, but trying to do things the right way. Coach Dignan and his friend was Coach Merchant, gave me a shot to come out there and coach at UD Jesuit and coach the DBs and wide receivers. And really the transition for me was clean. It was simple for me because I knew I wanted to treat people the way I wanted to be treated as a player. I saw the nightmare stories of coaches that didn't treat me well. But instead of me complaining about it, I knew someday I'll maybe have the opportunity to coach somebody's son and treat him as if he's my own son. And that's what I think coaching is all about. And when you do that, you're going to get the most from that guy because he knows you care about him on all levels of his life. Once again, socially, academically, and then obviously athletically, in that order, right? In that order. And so those guys did not mind me coaching that way and allowing my passion, my energy, everything that I am every single day. They didn't mind me coming on to their staff with that. And sometimes that's a big personality or a big ego. So some guys don't want a guy like me on staff with them because I'm a lot. I'm loud and I'm involved. But this is who I was as a player. So that's what said the transition for me was easy because I stayed within my own skin. I can't lie and be somebody else. It takes too long to be a great liar. You got to remember too much. I'd rather just be myself. And so that's what I was as a player. So I transitioned that way as a coach, and it really helped me out. But I know it helped out some of the players because some of those players I had was Devin Gardner. Some of those players I had was Ernest Thomas. Ernest is dang on a defensive backs QC at Tennessee right now. Devin Gardner is all over dang on TV right now. And I can talk about all the different players that didn't have a great college football career, but them guys went to play NAIA or Division III, had a great college football experience because of the passion I was able to maybe give to them, the energy I was able to give them and let them know, hey, you don't got to be the strongest, the fastest, the best. But if you go at every single day as if you're a champion, if you're a winner with some passion about it, with a smile on your face, no matter what you go through, you'll be all right. And so that's what I transitioned into high school football with, giving guys that, because I didn't know as much as other coaches. And I knew that. I could be a thumb pointer and say, I'm not as smart as these other guys, but can nobody ever question the amount of effort that I'm going to give them, how hard I'm going to coach them? Nobody's going to ever be able to question that. So I'm going to give them all I got, and they're eventually going to play the way I coach, right? The attitude of my group, my position group, those receivers and those corners, is going to be the same thing that I am personality-wise. They're going to play with some energy, some effort, and some dang on pride and confidence. And that's who I am as a person. So that's why the transition was clean, because that's what I was as a player. Hence, I became that as a coach. Instead of trying to figure out who I am as a coach, I just stayed myself.
Man, I tell you what, like you had an aura and the energy, man. It's evident. And as I was hopping on your bio, kind of getting some of these questions together at Toledo, put a smile on my face. The header pictures, your players dumping Gatorade on you. The positive energy in that picture, man. I like I said, no joke. I just smiled. I was like, that's awesome. And now I'm seeing that energy firsthand. So obviously you brought that attitude and energy and passion and all the things that you can see right now as I'm talking to you to your first experience. And after a quick 3 years, you're the head ball coach. I'm trying to imagine how old you are, 24, 25. Something like that.
Yep,
right?
I was 25 when I got the head coaching job offer. Yes, sir.
Yeah, 25. So you're at River Rouge High School, and I'm just curious, how did that opportunity come about so fast? I mean, because I know a lot of young coaches. I'm talking 28, 29 young head ball coaches, but 25. That's very quick. What did you do to elevate so quickly, and how did people notice?
Well, I was willing to take the tough road. So UD Jesuit, one thing I didn't say was they weren't like some great winningest program in the state of Michigan. I had to go and coach schematically because it was one of the top academic schools in the state of Michigan. So it was like the Northwestern, per se, the great academic institution in a pretty tough conference like the Big Ten. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's who UD Jesuit is in the Detroit Catholic League. They're the big academic institution. So they're playing against Detroit Catholic Central, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, Warren De La Salle, and these guys got studs. They got guys. So I had to coach every single minute, every single second to put my guys in a position to be successful, right? And so from there, Coach Scott Merchant resigns. I then go to Ann Arbor Huron, DB coach, wide receivers coach there. And with that, same thing. That's not the top school in that particular area. They got decent players, but we didn't have 4 stars, 5 stars, 3 stars, right? It had a bunch of no-rated guys that really loved the game. And I really had to spend my time coaching them and putting them in the right position to be successful. Eventually, my high school head coach, who was the head coach at Inkster High School at the time, our high school closed in 2004, St. Martin IV, so we went to Inkster, and I had that thing rolling, went to the state championship, and he allowed me to finally come and coach with him. because he told me, he said, go get your butt whooped and lose a little bit first, and then you can come and coach with me. Yeah. That's what he told me when I first got out of college and the Auto Renegades had shut down. I asked for him to come on his staff, and he said, no, go lose somewhere else first. Go get better. And so that third year I go and I help him out, co-DCing and really work with those DBs. And here's this nut of God right here. So the athletic director at River Rouge lived in Inkster. And the Inkster band director was the old band director of River Rouge. So he's like old school band director, like HBCU type of band director where the kids are out and they're playing all the music that everybody knows, the oldies, the goodies, the new music. And so everybody was there for halftime. No matter whether you came to see the game, you're there for halftime to see the band play. Well, this athletic director would come up to the games to see that, but he also saw my crazy behind on the sideline coaching my defense. So from there, he called my work phone. I was a personal trainer at Valley Total Fitness at the time. And he said, would you have interest in becoming the head football coach at River Rouge? Once again, nothing but God. My wife graduated from River Rouge in 2001 as the valedictorian there. So they called my work phone. So I'm like, okay, this is serious. So I called my wife. I said, you'll never guess the school that called to ask me to become the head coach. She said, who? I said, River Rouge. She said, don't take the job. We're terrible in football. We are a basketball school. I said, I can change the place if you come with me, right? And so she was in her fourth year of medical school at the time, becoming a doctor. So for me to ask for her to like bypass her residency was going to be like life-changing for us, right? Because this was her lifetime goal as a young lady, graduated from U of M, political science degree, then went to Wayne State Medical, and she's like about to finish this deal. She finishes it, and from there, I said, if you come in there and you change the culture of the young ladies by helping them get in school, I'll change the culture of the young men by getting them in school. We'll change the entire building. What we didn't know is the school was in financial debt. They had about 400 kids in the building at the time. And so we get there. We had to change the place, change culturally what we were doing, how we were doing. I did not want young men to represent my football program that was involved with gangs, that was involved with marijuana, that was involved with disrespecting teachers. So I kicked all of those guys off. So my first year, we went 2-7 because a lot of those guys could play football. But I was okay with that. I was okay with being represented by a bunch of just good guys because I said we need to be represented well in the classroom first. So we did that, and we cleaned the program out. From there, River Rouge has been in a state playoff run 12 years straight. That's from 2010 until this past particular season. They're still in the state playoffs, making state playoff runs. Went to state championship 3 times in that time that I was there, and had a lot of success. But most of all, what was I really holding myself accountable for? I had to give those kids a light at the end of the tunnel because a lot of them didn't have that. Putting them in school. I knew I couldn't compete with Martin Luther King or Cass Tech or Belleville and some of these big-time programs by going to the state championship and continuously winning them. We just didn't have the amount of guys. We would have maybe 3, FBS guys. Some of those schools got 13 of them. You know what I mean? So what can I do to change the narrative? Hey, son, if you give me your effort, if you play your butt off for me, I can find someplace for you. Maybe Division III, maybe NAIA, maybe Division II, but you're going to have a shot because you're going to have a 3.5 dang on GPA. So we're going to be able to package something up for you academically along with a little small football scholarship. Now you're pretty cheap for a football program. Everybody will want a guy that's tough or that's fast, that can lift, because that's what we made our program based off of. We're going to lift our butt off. We're going to be strong. We're going to be tough. May not be faster than anybody else. We'll be strong. We'll be tough. We'll have good GPAs. And so guys started, coming to our school that lived in our community. That's the crazy part. The guys that lived in our community, the best football players in our community, didn't go to our school. Yeah. They went to other schools. So we changed the narrative to say, if you come here, you'll have a fair shot at the end of your career. I'm not just going to shake your hand at the dang on bank and say, good luck. I'm going to we got a plan for you, son. And that's what we did. So we put them over 100 kids in different schools around the country. And we started eventually getting some guys that are a little tall, right? A little more athletic. And so now we've got, multiple guys going to FBS schools and having success. And one of them's at Clemson, having success, starting at defensive tackle. Ruko Rororo, Kamal Hatton, number 5, is starting at Tennessee. Reggie Pearson, it should be an upcoming starter at Oklahoma. He was just at Texas Tech. I can go down the line of different guys we put in school. But most of all, a lot of those Division II NAIA guys, Division III guys, that's the assistant coaches there now. Because those guys got their degrees. Now they're husbands and fathers. That's what we want to show them to do, is to change the narrative of what a man of color could be and should be. Right. Yeah. And I had to represent that first as a man by showing them how to love my wife. I had to represent that first as a man on how to come to school every day as the dean of students. And if there's a fight at the school, there's some mess going on, I still had to have a straight face and be mentally tough and fix the problem without showing my emotions. Right. I had to be able to show them that as athletic director, showing the young ladies, hey, this is how you lift weights appropriately. Hey, this is how you do study hall appropriately. I showed every single student athlete what an off-season program was really about. Where did I get that from? I did it as a player first, and then I went to clinics around the country, glaziers, sleeping on the floor at glaziers because I didn't have any money back then. Then I started, announcing coaches at glaziers to put myself in position that, hey, I get a free hotel room when I do that. I ain't got to sleep on nobody's floor anymore, sharing a room. So it was just that lifestyle of a young coach that from the time I was 25 until the time I was 30, I was grinding. But I was grinding to make sure everybody else's life was great, right? And so we did that. We gave up what we may have wanted for ourselves, and we were very, very unselfish to make sure that the kids in the community lives were better. Hence, the school grew. And like I said, they got 1,000 kids in the building, been to the state championship multiple times, and have great alumnus out of that place. So I think we did everything that we not only needed to do, but what we wanted to do. We saved her school because, just like the school I coached at Inkster, their building ended up closing down. Well, her school is still open right now because we came in that place and we changed it. You know what I mean? They were on that same list of closures, and we fixed that problem right then and there just by treating the kids the right way, holding them accountable for their social behaviors, academics, and athletics. Absolutely. That's what made us a little bit different.
Well, that's a reminder. Obviously, coaches listen to this podcast that what we do is important. And it's always going to be as important as we make it. And clearly, it was important for you. And it's going to have generational effects and generational impacts. Even if it's not more than somebody being able to walk into that building and get an education in 10 years. Just been a part of that. That's awesome, man. Well, I kind of want to focus on this part real fast. You kind of hit on some of your successes there, and I do want to talk a little bit about that. But this business is crazy, right? Because every last building that has football is just so different when you walk in it. Being a position coach at Alabama is much different than being a position coach at Birmingham Southern. Not very far from it, but just much different experience. And there's more probably high schools and colleges to where you're going to be on the staff and you're going to be the running backs coach slash video coordinator slash this slash that. And your experience as a head ball coach is probably different than a lot of other people's, where you also served as the dean of students slash athletic director at some point in time. I know the athletic director part came a little bit further down the line, but you held these multiple roles. How did you manage just more from a advice standpoint? Because there are a lot of young coaches that are going to get their first Division II job and have multiple responsibilities. What was one of the things that you did to be able to, not just be a ball coach that just, kind of did that stuff on the side, but a ball coach that excelled in all these other areas just to provide a great experience for your student athletes?
Yeah, so I think it's number one, having a great partner. And my wife was a great partner for me. She was able to manage the NCAA compliance piece for me and take that out of my hands. She was able to make sure that the guys were taking the correct courses. And so when it was time for national signing, she did a lot of that stuff for me. I had a team of people that believed in what we were trying to do in changing the lives of young men. And so most of all, identifying great people. The guy or the girl, whoever's working for you, may not be a subject matter expertise at all things football, may not be a subject matter expertise at all things NCAA, but you can clinic them or you can send them to a professional development session somewhere so they can become a subject matter expertise in that particular field, as long as they got a big heart. You get out of a big heart, they got to be unselfish. And if you're not able to identify your own staff, then you have to have a great level of time allocation and organization yourself. And that just takes a notepad, a pen, writing down what you got to get done every single day, being the toughest and the most important first. A lot of people want to take the path of the easiest resistance and do the easier things first and so on. No, the toughest things got to get done at the earliest points of your day. So sometimes you don't get much sleep. So you got to be willing to sacrifice fun and things like that. You got to be willing to sacrifice. I'm probably preaching to the choir. I know a lot of coaches are willing to just, hey, I'm just going to grind it out. I'm going to sleep in my office, so on and so forth. But you got to have a great balance. You got to give some spiritual time because something's going to break through eventually, and you got to be able to get back on your knees and fix yourself. You got to be able to have some self-care for yourself somehow. And so having my spiritual base is what kept me strong through bad times, because the bad times happen more often than not, right? And so as a dean of students, like I said, sometimes you're dealing with a fight that's happening in the school in one side of the school, and you got University of Michigan coming in the building on the other side of the school, right? And they're there to recruit, right? And they're there to get transcripts on guys. So you got to be able to send a text to your secretary, hey, I need you to hold these coaches in this area for me. Hey, make sure that this transcript, and this transcript, whatever those coaches need, get them a cup of coffee, a bottle of water. You need to take care of this for me. I'm going to run down this hallway, make sure this situation is all squared away, contact the parents of that fight, so on and so on and so on. So you've got to have support. You've got to have contacts inside your phone. You got to be willing to have tough conversations with people, because if that does not happen, if that transcript wasn't dispersed, if maybe that coach felt as if I'm sitting in this office getting my time wasted, nobody even came and greeted me. Now that coach doesn't come back. Now when that school may want to recruit someone, now they ain't coming in your building just because you didn't have anybody greet that guy, give him a coffee, give him a water, give him the transcripts that he needed because you were dealing with something else. So it's just about tender love and care, right? I think you just got to have a personal and human approach, and always being transparent, saying, hey, coach, I had something else going on. I'll be right over there, instead of him waiting without him knowing. That lack of communication kills you. So the other piece of it is communication, right? And if your communication is thorough with everybody that you deal with, I don't think anybody can ever question what was going on. But assumption and perception creates its own truth if you don't speak up for yourself about what you were dealing with and why and how. When you do that, then everybody got to understand they're human too. Right. But if you don't do that, there's a lot of doubt that comes in their mind what could have happened. So I think there's a lot of pieces that goes along with being a great assistant coach. But like I said, time allocation, having a human and personal approach to it, making sure you got a great, strong faith based in something, right? And you got to have great partnership, whether that's your wife at home or the staff that you're on staff with, or the staff that you're hiring if you're a new young head coach. You've got to be able to have a group of people that's willing to support you through the good and the bad. Right, not just the good, but through the good and the bad.
Absolutely. Well, let's stay on the advice stage. I'm going to ask your advice on a couple other things here, but real quick, I'm going to brag on you again. You kind of mentioned some of these, but I'm going to put it all together. So there's no doubt of some of the awesome stuff that you've done. River Rouge they won 8 games in the prior 4 years to you showing up in 2009. So that's on average winning two games a year for the previous 4 years. During your time there, you qualified for the state playoffs in 12 consecutive seasons under your guidance, earning 7 district titles, 5 regional crowns, 5 state semifinal appearances, 3 appearances in the state championship game. You won the Division III state title in 2019 and sent more than 100 student athletes on a journey to go play college football at other places. This is what most coaches probably dream about if you're going to be a head high school football coach, right? Just being able to go have some sustained success and seeing your kids go and have a successful outing as well. Oftentimes, a first time head coach is going to get a job like he got, right? I'm a young head coach. This is going to be my first job. Yeah, we all love to go in and have Nick Saban toss us the keys to Alabama, on the way out, and let that be our first gig. But most likely, it's going to be at a place that tends to struggle.
Yes, sir.
And obviously, we both recognize every job is drastically different. Just in general, what's some good advice you could give to help somebody in their first year be successful, putting together a great staff? In 3 years, a coaching philosophy, you clearly put something together, and it probably grew over time while you were there. Just what are some general ideas that coaches should think about, taking over a program for the first year?
Number one is, like I said, I identify great people. And what I mean by great people is, coaches that are great husbands and fathers first, because they've shown commitment to something that's very, very difficult to manage. The family, the family and your time as a coach is difficult to manage. So if they have already got that balance, that's a guy that you probably have some interest in, right? So after you got great people, then you hold them to simple standards. My standards was very, very simple. Rule number 1, treat every single player as if he your own son. Rule number 2, don't break rule number 1. That was it. Because if you treat every single guy as if he your own son, you're going to give him love. You're going to hold him accountable. You're going to be honest to him because that's what you would want for your son if you had one. So those are the simple standards that I held them to, and that was it was crystal clear, right? So as a young coach, the next thing that you need to do is you need to build an identity now. Otherwise, what are you building your players to become if they don't know what they're fitting inside of? You need an archetype for the positions that you're playing per the system that you're running. So I'm not smart enough to have a whole bunch of plays and I'm just sticking my hand in the bag and I'm just picking a different play every single call. No, I got a systematic approach of if, then, we on everything that we do on offense, defense, and special teams. And that systematic approach, once I'm able to build a great relationship with your youth league program or your middle school program, your elementary program, your junior varsity program, and your freshman program, everybody is doing the same thing from the time you're 7 years old until the time you're 17 years old. That's 10 years of the same play calls conceptually, and the only thing that will adjust is, let's say, just a little bit of a ladder. Right? We've all heard it before. When you're in elementary school, you're just running power left and power right. Right? Oh, well, when I get up to middle school, I get power right, power left, and counter right, counter left. So on and so on and so on. Defensively, we're a single gap, middle of the field closed, and we're going to be able to check some dang on body because if you know how to play man, I can teach you how to play zone. But I can't do the latter end of it. I can't have you playing zone and then expect you to be able to check somebody man if you never had the techniques appropriate to do so. So systematically, we were very, very simple. We want to be effective. We want to be fast. We want to be strong. I did not want my guys to be on the field thinking the whole dang on game. I wanted them to be responding and moving fast. So got to have an identity. What was our identity? We want to be strong. We want to be tough. That's what we want to be. Because in the fourth quarter in Michigan, in October and November in Michigan, to win games, you better be able to stop somebody from running the ball for 3 yards. And on offense, you better be able to run the ball for 3 yards because it's snowing. That ground is wet, or it might be some snow on it. And you got to be able to get 3 yards throughout that particular deal. So we want to be strong because we knew if we can win at the point of attack, whether it's down blocking, whether it's being a 3 technique or a 0 technique, and I can finish with my hands. If I can do those things simply on a regular basis, over and over and over again, when I'm tired and when I got a ton of energy, from the time I'm 7 to the time I'm 17, ooh, baby, we cooked on hot grease. Because this guy believe in himself at that point, and he know the call.
That's right.
He know the call. Ain't no thinking. Don't look to the sideline, bro. You know what we trying to get accomplished. Let's go. And so that's what we did. We wanted to be simple. I'm not trying to be a genius because you don't got to be a genius to be a great football coach.
That's right.
You don't got to be a genius. You just got to make sure what you're teaching, the players have an understanding of, and they can fix it on the field, right? And so that's pretty much, some of the things that I believe a coach must be able to do. Identify great people, right? Have a systematic approach, have an identity, and do not ever, ever bend off those 3 things. Because once you do, you're just like everybody else, right? Be a contrarian. If you want to add a 4th thing to it, do something that no one else is doing, right? Because if I'm doing what everybody else is doing, we got to be better. We just got to have better players. And I said from the beginning, we just didn't. And I was okay with that. I was able to go and find a group of guys in the Single Wing Association, the National Single Wing Coaches Association, and those guys taught me the scheme. Some guys played in the dang on Single Wing. They played with a leather helmet on back in the day. And them guys was willing to teach me the stuff, but I was a defensive guy. So I thought about it the same way Coach Paul Johnson thought about it. He was a defensive line coach at Hawaii, from what I've heard. And so what did he do? He ended up becoming one of the best coaches schematically maybe to ever, coach football, running his flex bone, right? Running his triple option as a defensive guy. But he had his scheme that he really believed in. And this was my scheme, the single wing. I really believed in it because all my bells and whistles was going to be on defense, right? I was going to be able to do all the stuff I need to do defensively because I'm a defensive guy. right? So I want to make sure offensively we had an if, then we. If they're doing this, we're doing that. And the players understood how to block it. The players knew how to attack it. The players knew how to go about practice every day schematically and what drills we need to do to simulate different things to prepare them. So that's what made us a little bit different. We practiced the way we played. We were physical at practice, but we use drills that apply to their success. We don't just do drills just because it's a cute drill that you found on YouTube. We do stuff that's going to apply to how we need to attack them on game day.
I love it. I love that, man. Well, so now let's I guess not fast forward, actually, just kind of transition to your next deal. So after this epic run at River Rouge, you transition to your current job. You're a corners coach there at Toledo. How did this come about? Was this something you pursued? Were they pursuing you? And I'm going to save the question for the internal discussions between you and your family. I know family is important for you, but just everything that kind of maybe happened around, you and the head ball coach or a coordinator over there to kind of get this thing rolling. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I've never applied for a job before at the collegiate level or at the high school level. I've been blessed to do a good job and somebody has seen it, or someone knew me or heard about me, or maybe I spoke at a clinic and someone saw me speak. And so with that, I had been turning down FBS jobs for the past 5 years before I took this job. And so at this group of 5 level or at the Power 5 level, whether it was analyst positions or position jobs. And me and my wife didn't realize what we were really doing. All we knew was that she was pregnant and we couldn't just up and pick up and move. It just wasn't the time for us. And I'm a family man first. I'm crazy enough to want to spend that time with her when she's going through a pregnancy. So I would tell her, Coach, Coach, I appreciate you with the offer, but no, thank you. It's just not the right time. And so with that, this situation came about. She wasn't pregnant this year. You know what I mean? She wasn't pregnant, and I talked to her about it. I said, Coach Jason Candle, I got a lot of respect for him when he took the job here in 2009 as the receivers coach in OC. I was coming up here to clinics because Toledo is 45 minutes from Detroit. So if I can't drive 45 minutes to go and learn some ball, shame on me.
Right.
Shame on me. So I was coming up here to clinics. So they knew of me. I knew of them. It was a level of respect amongst the two. And Coach Candle was coming into the building to do his normal head coach's tour. You know how a head coach can come through and recruit. And he asked me, what is it that I've been teaching my defensive backs and things like that, and for them to have success at the college level. What is that I do? And so I got on my board and I'm talking my stuff. I'm proud of my stuff and what we do, what we believe in press man. We believe in an off man and catch man. And so in that moment, he said, would you like to come and talk to my defensive staff about our corners position this weekend? Hey, why not? I would love to. And so I called the wife and I asked her what she thought, and she said, "Baby, you've been holding back your dreams for our family for a while now. Let's go see him. Let's go see what it's about." And so I came up here that weekend, that Saturday, and I talked to the defensive staff. And after that, we went and had a slice of pizza, and Coach Candle extended the offer and opportunity to come here. And it was the most gut-wrenching moment after I got done with that pizza. I realized I had to say, I had to say something to my wife about this. I had to say something to my players at River Rouge about this. My sons, 160 kids from middle school all the way up to varsity football, JV football. I had to say something to these babies about the possibility of me leaving. It was gut-wrenching, the worst feeling I had in my life. But I had to figure out, how can I walk away from this opportunity? And it's right here in front of me. My wife is saying yes. My plan is to become a college football head coach someday. How can I become that if I never get on this track and really see what it's about and challenge myself for success? So I made a decision on faith instead of fear. And I met with those players that next morning. I'm crying, they crying, whole room crying, emotional. And I expressed to them, that I had to make a decision.
And the most beautiful thing happened in that room. They was all expecting me to go. They wanted me to go because for them, they wanted that. They needed that. They want that level of hope to see, man, that's my coach. And he's now coaching college ball. So whatever dreams I got, if I work hard enough towards it, I got a shot too. And so that's what that deal was about. So I came here and I gave these babies up here everything I had. Gave the corners and the nickels everything I had. And we were the number 10 pass defense in the country, under Coach Vince Karish and his defense. And, out of 517 passing attempts, he had 7 penalties. That's 1.2% of the time there was going to be a penalty in the air. Wow, we wore boxing gloves and oven mitts at dang on practice. I challenge them every day to believe in themselves and not to use their hands deep down the field. Why? That's something that Jason Candle asked me to do. He said we were penalized too much in the air last year. How can you fix it? So I had to have a plan, and I had to stick with it. So I had to give them confidence. I had to give them a level of understanding. Simplistically, we're going to cover people these ways. These are the couple ways we're going to press. These are a couple ways we're going to play off. And you'll know how to use them and when to use them. You know how to deploy what attack on who and when, depending upon the down and distance. And we lived in that world. And they believed in it, and I believed in it. Hence, we won a dang on MAC championship. Hence, we won a dang on Boca Bowl. And, I'm just very, very proud of them guys. At the end of the day, was able to have our first All-American since 1968 at cornerback. Just a little old high school coach teaching a guy how to do some things the right way. But most important, showing them guys some love. Yeah. Them guys told me, hey, Coach, we ain't been home for Thanksgiving in about 4 years. I say, oh, Thanksgiving in my house then, baby. And I had to call the wife and tell her, hey, baby, you got to order a couple more turkeys, a couple more hams. You got to make some more mac and cheese because these jokers coming. How many you got, baby? I got 10 of them. They coming through.
And they hungry.
Why? They hungry. Yeah. Do what you got to do. But I couldn't let some babies have dang on pizza for Thanksgiving.
Right.
It's have it at my house. It's that family approach, that love that I'm giving them. So they had my house with shoes off, playing a video game with my son and having a great time as if it's their home. And they should feel that way. Because for me, I'm too old to be your friend.
Yeah.
I'm 40 years old. I'm old enough to be your daddy. And so hence around here, that's who I am to them. I am another parent for them. So if they never had a father figure, well, you got one for me. So I'm about to be in your business. Who you dating, what you about academically, and what you stand for. Because it all represents me at the end of the day. So I'm willing to have a thick skin and get browbeat by my head coach if he has to. If one of my guys did wrong. Because guess what? That is my guy. I'm responsible for him. So whatever you got to say to me about my guy, I'm willing to take that brunt. I'm going to go have a conversation with him now, though, because stuff rolls downhill. So somebody got to catch this thing. Yeah. So that's pretty much, I think, why we had the success that we had this year, because there was a transparent point of view of love every day. And I gave them all I had.
Well, I've had the opportunity to know you for a few years. Obviously, we in the coaching industry, we bump elbows at times and shake hands at the convention, all that kind of stuff. But, I've been able to kind of see you with your family we're friends on Facebook, and, wife Autumn, 10-year-old Corey, 7-year-old Avery, and 3-year-old Ashlyn, right? Beautiful family. You kind of alluded a little bit to maybe some of your dialogue with your wife. So I'm gonna change the question just a little bit. How have you adapted to the change, right? You're the head ball coach for the last 12, 13 years. Mm-hmm. You practice when you want to practice. You set the schedule that you want to set, and then now it's the collegiate world's. I'm not saying one's harder than the other, because they're both difficult when it comes to time management, balancing, and all that kind of stuff. But you end up being gone a lot more in terms of recruiting and flying across the country to go and sign athletes, and every weekend to go play a football game. How has that transition, amongst a tight-knit family, how's that went for you guys?
Maintaining a sense of family is all about being intentional while you're around.
Yeah.
So when I'm there, I'm dad. I'm not coach. I'm not texting or calling football players around the country recruiting, because I'm at home right now. I make sure I get that stuff done on my car rides on the way home, right? I make sure I get that done when I'm here in the office, and sometimes it takes later nights. But the best thing about being here in Toledo, we've got a great head coach and a great defensive coordinator that, for me, they got young kids too.
Yeah.
So for me, just as they picked me, I picked them, because I needed to be around men that were also great husbands and great fathers. I couldn't be with a guy that wasn't. Mm-hmm. And some guys say it, but I need to see it.
Yeah.
I need to see it. I need to know it. I need to feel it because that's who I am. And if I ever got to make a choice, it's going to be them before y'all, baby. I'm going to pick them kids and that wife before y'all. It got to be that.
Right.
And I wouldn't want, as a head coach, to have a guy that would pick the team and the program over that family. Right? So you're not loyal to nothing. You're loyal to the logo, or you're loyal to that pigskin ball that you didn't come in this world with that. Right? I brought them kids in this world, so I owe them that. I married that woman and told her to death do us part.
That's right.
So I got to give her everything I got. So for me, it's just being intentional, man. Spending that quality time. So when I have an opportunity, if it's one of the practices going on, my daughter's gymnastics stuff, or my son's soccer or basketball stuff or football stuff, I'm there. I'm going to try and get up out this office as fast as possible to get there. And once I get done with that game and that practice, I'm sprinting right back here.
Yeah.
Just so that I can still get my work done, but I still was able to be dad in that afternoon too. And the blessing is we're a morning team, which allows me to get that done, certain days of the week. So those are the good blessings of just being intentional. I call my wife 3 times a day. Morning right after practice, in the afternoon right when we have our little lunch break, our staff time, and then in the evening to find out who do I need to pick up from practice. Do you need me to drop anybody off at practice? Do you have all the supplies you need for dinner? How are you doing? I know you got 3 babies. Are you all right? Have they tied you up yet?
Yeah.
So I'll make sure I have those conversations just so I'm an intentional husband, because I got to be a great husband first. Some guys put being a great father in front, but you're not dating that woman. You're not dating that wife. And now that family will separate itself because she don't feel love.
Yeah.
And that's an important piece of it. So I make sure if we have time off, we do a little staycay, a little vacation, maybe somewhere around here. Or if we got a longer time, a week off or 7 days off or more, we'll go out of town and do something. And I'm sure I see a lot of coaches doing that around the country. But when we do that, I ain't just standing in the bed. Oh, we going to do some excursions, baby. Let's go. Where you want to go? What you want to do? What you want to see? So we try to make the best out of every single moment that we got, because I think that family has earned that for me.
Absolutely, man. You said something that really resonated with me. I spent a little over a decade coaching before I transitioned to this role here at the AFCA. And, I guess within the first year of me being out, I got called to speak on something in Tampa, Florida, the NFL NCAA coaches deal. And I was on this panel, and they were asking for a piece of advice. And I said, don't just let a staff pick you. You better pick them. And you said that verbatim. And I've heard very few people say that, because most of the time, Toledo called, I'm gone. I don't care what the situation is. I'm gonna go chase this opportunity. And obviously your situation is great, but you never know what you're gonna get yourself into. You don't know if you're gonna be burning the midnight oil, and also being an early bird. And there's a lot of jobs that are like that. And it was something that was super important to me to share to coaches, and I didn't know if it really resonated. And a few years later, a guy hit me up. Was like, man, you said that. And, I was chasing jobs, and I ended up running into one of them jobs that you were talking about. And so from here on out, I'm always going to pick them, interview them, make sure that you're going to be able to take care of what's important to you. So I appreciate you saying that, man. Last thing, and we're going to make this quick here. We're well over most of our podcast times, but I've really enjoyed this one. And try to make this in one sentence, one paragraph if you can. Given your success as a high school coach and now at the collegiate level, what are some of your what advice do you have for high school guys trying to make the jump to the collegiate level? This is one of the most popular calls I get. Hey Mario, what advice you got? What's your advice for a guy making that transition or wanting to make that transition?
If you want to make this transition, you have to make sure that you have a strong basis on the needs of the school that you're going into. So, whether that's being a great motivator of your position group, whether that is being a subject matter expertise on the techniques appropriate for the players to be successful in a position that they play, whether that's being a great recruiter in the particular area of need that you're taking over. Maybe that's even just teaching the guy, being a great manager, being a great head coach of your room, having some organizational skills so you can then bestow that upon that group, right? And so those 4 things have to be something that you can identify tangibly. You got to be able to look back at something and say, Did I fix this? Yes or no? And you got to be transparent enough to say, if I didn't, I need to find somebody that has had success in that area and call that school. So you got to have relationships and coaches and mentors. I talk to Steve Clinkscale on a regular basis. He was the ex-corners coach here. DK McDonald, ex-cornerbacks coach here. Corey Robinson, ex-cornerbacks coach here. Phil Parker, ex-defensive backs coach here. And the list goes on of different coaches that pour into me because of the fact that they've seen how I treat people, and maybe they think that I could do a good job in a situation like this. Hence, I don't stop making those phone calls or texts, right? So it's not a cold call or a cold text if I need something from someone. It is an active relationship that I have been involved in the entire time that's not always involving in football. Sometimes we just talking about each other's family. That's it. And so the relationship building piece and relationship maintaining piece is important.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's what I believe is the biggest way to make the jump and have success at the jump. Because when you get here, you got to be good at what you do. And the only way you can do that is if you know some people to call to fix problems when they occur, because the problems are going to occur more times than not.
That's right. Well, Coach, man, I really appreciate this. Thank you so much for your time. Before I let you go, though, love for you to share your Twitter account just so guys can keep up with your journey. If they got questions, they can shoot you a DM, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm Coach C. Parker. Please, follow me. I'll follow back. Anytime I can answer any questions or help out, I will. Like I said, the National Single Wing Coach Association is poured into me. The Michigan High School Football Coach Association is poured into me. The AFCA is poured into me. The Minority Coaches Association is poured into me. I have so many people that have poured into me, so many coaches that spent this quality time with me. I have to give back. I have to fill somebody else's cup up because so many people have gave to me, I got to give to others. And that don't cost a penny. You ain't got to buy nothing for me. I'm going to help you because you want to help some kids. And that's what this thing is about. Each of us getting our hands on the rope, pulling the same direction, doing the right thing for the game of football, but most importantly, doing the right thing for mankind, doing the right thing for young people so they can grow and do the same thing for others later on in this world. So I'm Coach C. Park on Twitter. Any way I can help out, please reach out to me, and I do the best way I can to support you. And if I can't, I'm smart enough to then call somebody else to say, hey, bro, you got to answer this. I got a guy that follow me that needs to know something about this. And that's my vast variety of college coaches that came inside my office at River Rouge to recruit my players that I still maintain a relationship with.
Well, no better place to close it up than there, Coach. We appreciate you, man. Have fun. Best of luck this spring, all right?
Oh, yeah. Go Rockets. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Inside the Headset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter at Coach Mario Price. And remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.